Okay, here we go. I'm playing music.
Right on.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's session. We're so excited to have James with us again today. I love your sessions, James. I'm so looking forward to this
Aw,
one. And we're covering
thank you.
media composers using multiple time codes. Yes, I'm happy to have you, James.
Mm-hmm. Great. It's great to be back.
As as everyone's filtering on a social, give us a shout out. Let us know where you're watching this from. Also, if you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand and I can come to you separately if you're having a question. You can enter a question at any time across multiple platforms. I am trying to monitor those for questions for James. And then these will be recorded and posted back to avid.com for people to take a look at them later. So it looks like we've got people coming in. Colombia, Hawaii. Wow, it's really early in Hawaii, so thanks for
Oh,
attending. We have people in from the UK, Italy, Brazil. Love it. Global experience we've got here for you, James.
oh my goodness.
Hola,
Yeah.
whoever gave the shout out there. I linked it. I missed the name. So of course we have James. He's one of our master instructors, and he also teaches at the university. So we're always happy to have him, and he has so much experience and wealth of knowledge. So, James, I know you have a lot to cover in this session, so I will
Yeah.
go ahead and hand this back to you.
Sí, mi esposa es Colombia para Medellín. So, and that's the extent of my Spanish. I'm very, very sorry. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about what am I talking about today? Well, with everything that's been going on with COVID, um, I've had a lot of friends that they've started working at home. And one of the cool things they've done is they've contacted me and they say, "Hey, I've got two monitors now." And I'm going to switch to the Super 1970s camera here. And you can see I've actually got two. I've got one here, one there, plus my laptop. And so I'm running three monitors when I have the rig set up. And I don't have it set up right now. I'm in the process of moving around. But I've said to my friends, "Wow, that's great. You have a second monitor now. What are you doing on that?" And they mostly will say, "Netflix." And I'll say, "So you really haven't thought about what you're going to do on your second monitor?" It's like, No, I'm going to move some stuff here and there. And what I've started doing is suggesting, okay, I've used two monitors for a long time. Here are some things in Media Composer that you might not know that can make your life really happy with two monitors. And two of them being what you can do with master clips and what you can do with timecode windows. And a lot of people don't use the timecode window. So let me share my screen and share, please. Sorry, I'm just clicking around and I'm going to set my timer so I don't go too far and go over. I want to keep this quick for everybody. All right, so this is our typical sort of setup for Media Composer. And what usually happens is if you look on the Composer window, and I'm using the record side now because I've got, I'm using a timeline here. Usually it shows like the master time code and the duration, something like that. And people say, yeah, I never really look at that. So when I talk to somebody about setting up a two monitor system, I say, all right, let's take a look at this. Because usually what you do is maybe you have a 1 or 2 row display on this. And I usually suggest 2. And one way to double check that is to use the fast key of, and I'm using a Mac today, PC folks, I don't hate you. I just rarely use them. So it's a command equal. Once I've got a highlighted window, okay, I've got the highlighted composer tool, command equal, and I always display 2 rows of data. Okay, I always display 2 rows of data. I promise I'm giving you the time codes thing. So master time code 1, and then like a duration here. For me, this doesn't really work. What I do is I'm looking at clips and I'm talking with a director or a producer or somebody about all the individual stuff down in the timeline. So I change this. And because it deals with time, a lot of people don't explore very much. But up here, there's a source. And I can say, let's say for source video 1, I can look at the time code for each individual clip as the playhead goes by. And I know this may be difficult for some of you to see, but you can test it on your own. Down on the lower one, what I'll say is, okay, that's nice. But for source video 1, you know what? I want the clip name. Come on, be a nice person. Okay, there it is. And now it's saying 3C-4. As I go through, it's showing me the name of each individual clip. And I have a lot of friends who'll say, oh, in Avid, it doesn't have like the overlays that go on the screen. So this can be like an overlay. It's like, absolutely. They usually wait to use the, the time code generator effect and do all this. Like, no. You can start here. Okay. And set that up on, screen number 1. The next recommendation I make, if they're going to go with screen number 2, is I say, maybe you like frame view. Maybe you're a big fan of frame view. I'm okay with it. But occasionally I want to get more detailed, or a director wants to say, there's like, as for example, let's say there's 3 takes in here. And they say, I want to see all 3 takes. Well, usually what we will do is we will highlight them and then drag them into the source side and shuffle through them. What I'll suggest to people is, well, oftentimes my directors and producers, they like to look maybe at 3 things simultaneously, 3 separate little items. I'll say, here's what we can do. I'm going to take these clips here, and instead of double clicking them, I'm going to option double click them. I'm going to hold down the option alt key, double click, and they come out as little individual, little individual playbacks. A lot of people did not know that this is an option. Not only that, if they are similar takes, like takes 1, 2, and 3, I can quote unquote gang them together and then move them, and they will move relative to each other. And people will be like, wow, that is really cool. Yes, and I will suggest that they put that on the second window. I said, make that your second window and you can have a bunch of them open. Now make sure you have great RAM speed and processing power. But yeah, that is usually one of the things on my second window. What I'm talking about with time code windows today is a lot of people only go to the top of the composer window to think about how they're going to look at time. A lot of people, because of the way they work, they don't have the time to explore a tool like the time code window. And you may say to yourself, wait a minute, how did that just happen? Okay, so this is the kind of thing I would put on my second window. These are actually customizable, completely customizable, in that I can create one that is specific to, in this case, which one is this one? Let me go to my settings, Shift, Command, equal, okay? And under timecode window, it says this is the one for spot audio, okay? I can switch it to one that I call session spot. And it has the master timecode here. It has the name of what's in video clip 3. Now, in this case, it's like, that looks an awful lot like the sequence. Yes, when there is nothing but filler in a video clip, that's what it gives you. And then it gives you the time code. So in video clip 1, there's 3-4, and it gives me the time code for it. And then the duration, in and out, absolute, and remaining. How did I do this? Well, basically, let me go to just the blank time code window, just the blank setting for the time code window, and give it, I'm not going to give it a double click. What I'll do is I'll say I want to just use the default, go to tools, time code window, and usually what happens is it kind of just looks like that. And people are like, well, that's great. What I can do is then say, go on the little disclosure window and then say, let's go to size. I'm not going to do a lot of this because how fun would it be to just simply watch me build a timecode window? Yes, no. So there's the master up at the top. And I could say, you know what? I want to change that to the source name in video 1 3-4. Then I want to add a line. And let's say what I would like to see on the source of video 1 is its time code. Okay. And then I want to add another line. And then for that one on the source, I want to see its frames. So now I've created a custom time code window. All I need to do is go back into the settings, like most of you already know, and just give this a name. And I'm going to call it Tide. You're going to figure out in a minute why. I'm going to call it Tide. And this one is Tide. And you're like, okay, that's great. And this will usually end up on my second window. Really big. Why? Usually I will have an assistant taking notes on what I'm watching on screen number 1, or I get this out of the way so it doesn't bother the producer and the director, because occasionally I do work with someone where I have to take the composer window. Okay. I have to take the composer window, do a command equal to go straight into this and say, turn off the dual display at the top, because all that is bugging them. And it happens. And so I will use this other time code window off in the second monitor. Now, the cool thing that I wanted to show you, and if you're interested, talk to Dawn. I could do a session on this with settings. So I have my edit workspace. I have created 3 more. One is for spotting audio. One is for general just spotting video, like, we need to do and go through and make some markers. And then I have one called a VFX spot, where if I go through with a VFX person or a colorist doing some specific spotting. Now, here's what I want you to pay attention to. I want you to pay attention to what the time code window looks like, and to a certain extent, what is about to happen to my timeline tools. Let's go to audio spot. Boom. Okay. Yeah, this one got squished. Okay. This is what can happen sometimes, is they get squished. If you create a new one and things get weirded out. This is why I try and create them all at once. And then let's do this. You're like, oh, they're all screwed up. No, watch. If I change the size of one, they all change. Okay, so you cannot, this is one of the things, you can't have like little ones and big ones mixed in together. So if that gets squished up because you changed one of them, it's like, okay, I think this was about a 40. Yeah, it was about a 40. There you go. And squeeze up. So I wanted to show you some advantages and some disadvantages. I mean, nothing's really perfect. Okay, so size, I'm going to take that down to a 30. There we go. And you will notice what happened was it changed the view of my timeline, and it changed which timecode window I was looking at. Okay. It's like, oh, all right. Because it went for the video effects one, it's all mostly in frames. It's mostly in frames. Spot session is all video. And then the audio session is basically all of the audio. Okay. Now, how is it doing this? A lot of people don't know how it is doing this, that when I am switching between these workspaces, it is not only switching the timecode windows, it is also switching the view on the timeline itself. You'll notice I also went to a single monitor, because that's most likely what I'm going to be using when I'm doing a spotting session. I don't care what's over in the source side. I'm only looking at the timeline side. These keep changing. It's like, all right, we're going to do this now, and then we're going to do this. And this is usually where I get labeled a wizard and I'm to be burned. But people say, how are you doing this? Because when I go from one thing to another, I have to change the timeline. I have to change the composer. I have to pick the new this. Okay. If you've never experimented with this before, I'm going to do a shift command equal. There are things here called Workspace Views. And I have one called VFX spot, spot session, audio spotting. If I double click Workspace View, it has a thing here that says link to named settings. And I've said if a setting has spot VFX, this is my little trick. Settings cannot be the same name as the workspace. The name of this workspace is VFX Spot. So I'm so clever, all I do is reverse. Spot VFX are the names of all the settings. So when I activate this workspace, if it sees any setting named Spot VFX, it activates it. And this can be timelines, keyboards, the composer view, bin views, all of it. Every time I go to this workspace, it links to those settings. And so that's why when I do this, it does that. Not only that, if you save a workspace, as you know, and I changed all of this because the settings I have for all of this is for 2 workspaces. So I had to create a new setting to change it to 1 workspace. But yeah, that's how I do it. And these timecode windows end up being very, very helpful for me because then I can go through and spot and make changes, especially if this window is completely clear. And we're just looking at the picture and I'll say, okay, we need something there. And then I can look at the timecode view on the second window. So a lot of my friends have said this has been a big help because Avid doesn't really do overlays, which is fine. They have this, it's off to the side on the second screen where they don't, it's like, okay, I'll look at it when I need it. So these are just a few hints with that. I'm going to suggest before I go back to go taking some questions is what I'm going to suggest is a lot of people have asked me what they'll say. Let me share my screen one more time. Is they'll say, okay, so what you're saying is you did this, it was 2 screens, and then you had to create a new user for the 1 screen. So you had to rebuild all of this stuff with the new user. No, there's actually a method because I'm using my own laptop every single time that I create a new user that is specifically for something. It will load all the custom settings that I have created except for workspaces, and then I can create new workspaces for 2 versus 1. So that's how I do it. So this is just a little suggestion of a lot of people when they get 2 screens or even 3 screens, well, like, what do I do with it? I will admit on my 3rd screen, it's mostly the shutter channel, but the 2nd screen is all cool information. If anybody has any questions, please ask. I will let Dawn monitor those because I'm very bad at it. I shall sip from from my Avid mug. Yeah.
No worries, James. Yeah, so if you have some questions for James on what you just seen, which was pretty amazing, I have to admit, that was kind of cool. Go ahead and get those in now on the social feeds or within Zoom, and we'll get those questions over to James. We have a lot of applauding and hearts for you, James. That's awesome.
That's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay. So one question came in. Can you zoom in again on how you set the name? I guess they weren't able to really see that on setting the name for those workspace settings.
Oh, sure. If you've never actually, I don't know, a lot of people don't use custom settings. They just use the defaults. Oh, no, I didn't want to do that. So yeah, let me just give you an idea. So I know it's going to be tough to zoom in, but so the names of my workspaces are Spot Session, okay? And then VFX Spot. Okay, that's 2 of them. Sorry, I'm beeping. Okay. So what I do is simply reverse the names on the settings because, okay, I have a workspace view called Audio Spotting, Spot Session, and then VFX Spot. When I create a setting like a timeline setting, like a timeline view, a timecode window, a keyboard, whatever, I will simply reverse the 2 names. So instead of Spot Session, Anything that is a session that is for that, it'll be session spot. So a keyboard setting will be called session spot for a workspace view called spot session. Or for audio, if the workspace view is called audio spotting, every setting that's supposed to link to it will be called spotting audio. It's just a trick that I do so I can keep it memorized. The only rule is whatever your workspace name is, your setting that you want to link to it cannot have the same name. It's just a trick I do to memorize it, or I will get completely lost. That's just me. I need simple mnemonic things. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Also, is there a limit to the number of labels you can have on those time code settings?
Okay, that is a great question. I have not encountered one yet. I have had up to I've had as much as 24 tracks with their names and all that in here. I've just had to change the size or stretch it out across the screen. One thing I will warn you is that if you are working in a okay, so right now let's take the one that I have here. It has 7. That one had 7 audio tracks. Okay, if that's what's set up, and then I start working in one with 3 audio tracks, it's only going to show 3. And then if you add audio tracks, it might not necessarily add more. So that's why one thing that I do, let me just jump back here real quick. I'm going to go to, I'm going to jump out of this and use my trick. I've highlighted the timecode tool. I'm just going to do command equal. Okay. And edit. There is the new sequences default, and this is in your timeline settings. And right now, my current user is set up for 1 video and 2 mono tracks. My default is always 8 video tracks, 24 mono tracks, 1 stereo track. What I prefer to do is have that where I actually have more than I need. I'm the type of person that's like, I want more than I need, and then I will cut back instead of adding more later. So I've found that these timecode windows actually work better if with your timeline, you start with more than you need and then cut back. I hope that makes sense.
All right, we'll see if there's any chatter about that one.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a question coming in. Someone has 1 TV and 2 monitors. And in your opinion, what would be the best configuration to maximize his workspace?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely, I would say on the TV, because I'm going to do something right now. I would use mostly the TVs like as a full screen monitor, just to look at that beautiful, beautiful stuff you're working with. I'm assuming what you're working with is far better than what I'm working with. Here's a trick that a friend of mine has done that's amazing. One of them is definitely, he has a longer monitor, really long timeline, nice composer look at. He's taken one of the other monitors and made it vertical. If you can do that with one of your monitors, take it vertical, and he's started stacking certain things in a vertical pattern. Like instead of doing a left to right pattern for like his effect palette and his bins and all that, he's stacked it in a vertical pattern. See if you can try that. In my case, what I literally do on the second monitor is usually the bins, and then get that prepared to do the option double click. And I like opening up those little monitors and the timecode window. Now, let me show you one thing. The reason I show the option double click is because that is what I prefer. And that's what I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the timecode window. That's when I was holding the option key and double clicking and getting the little monitor here. Okay. I love that. Now, you can make this permanent. I find that when I do it, it's majorly upsetting to me. I want it as an option, but you have the ability, if you go to bin settings, this is where your autosave is located. That is what this thing that says double click loads object in means. Right now, when you double click a sequence or a master clip, it immediately goes into the source monitor, or if it's a sequence, the record monitor. However, you can say new pop-up monitor and then just have that as a setting. And now I no longer, I'm going to switch out of single monitor mode real quick, going back to edit. Now I don't need the option key. I can simply double click it and it pops up that way. If I option double click it, now it ends up in the source monitor. So some people love that option. Is like, no, I always wanted to pop up a single monitor. Then go ahead and make that a bin setting. If it's only when you want it, don't make that the bin setting and then just use the option key. But it is something fun to try. It is something absolutely fun to try.
Awesome. I think with some of the emojis and comments I'm seeing that everybody really likes that trick of the little windows and the little monitors. That's awesome to see.
Well, I'm assuming that a lot of everybody out there has sort of dealt with, you've got like 6 takes of the same thing. And for me, it was always loading in the source monitors, going back and forth was mentally taxing for the director / producer. So if I could just rack them up and do that and, kind of line up the playheads where everything's sort of where it is, gang it up and move it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've ended my sentence with an I've done my typical, I've ended a sentence with an aha. I really need to stop doing that. Okay, cool.
No worries. So for those of you that are on the social feeds or visit us in Zoom, if you would like that session for workspace view settings and spotting that James had gone over a little bit there, we could dive more into that session. Go ahead and let us know and give us a shout out, and we'll make sure that that happens. I will go ahead and share my screen of the upcoming sessions that we have. We'll see if another question pops in while I'm sharing here. So tomorrow we've got designer, so part of our graphics group, and then we also have a Pro Tool session on Thursday. And I know we've got James lined up for a few more sessions later in the month and into October, so we're starting to plan those out as well. Again, if you do feel like you want us to present something like James has suggested there, or something else that you'd like to see, drop us a line at liveonlinelearning@avid.com, and we'd be more than happy to see what we can do to create that and get more word out there for these really cool tricks we're learning along the way. So James, I really appreciate you attending, and you always do a great presentation. I love the energy. It's been great and awesome. And
happy to be
everyone
here.
else, thank you for thanks. Everyone else, thank you for watching, and you can find the videos back at avid.com, online learning webinars, and we're also posting September's calendar now, so you can go in and check that out and see what's coming up for the next month. So I will let everyone get back on with their day, evening, morning, depending on where you call this in from. And James, again, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and great session again today.
Thank you.